Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Film Freaks Television. I'm your host,
Yay.
Moody, and this is going to be a fun one. We got three people, two of which are special guests who have been on the show before, but I don't think together yet. And one guest that may be stopping in later. We're not sure, so we'll see. There's a guest. There's a guest. If not, oh well. It just didn't happen. But we've got our co-host with the mostest, cow hostess, however you want to call it. Please welcome Paul A Presenza. How are you doing, Paul?
I am moveless, and yep, it's your old pal, the Moo Cow. And how's it going, everybody?
All righty. And then we got Joe Turek here. How you doing, Joe?
Doing pretty well. I'm looking forward to this one today. Was that a cow that was sleeping or dead on your screen, Paul?
Sleepy cow.
Sleepy cow.
Sleepy cow.
You know, he's on the roof, you know, that's okay. All right. And next we also have John Ward. How you doing, John?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. So Joe, you haven't been on Film Freaks this year, have you? This season?
I don't think I've been on this season. I know I've done a few of them in previous years, but a number of them actually. But yeah.
Welcome back. And John was here for the Star Wars one that him and Alfred and I did. So.
And Joe gets to join us for an actual good movie as opposed to Wonton Tom, the dog that saved Hollywood.
Oh. Hey, what Star Wars did we do? I forget.
We did A New Hope.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
See, we would probably still be doing that. We'd probably still be doing that if I was on that one. I'd probably still be talking about it.
Probably. I would have had to cut you off and told you it's over now. But yeah, so I think I asked you that day and you were not able to make it. Yeah, but it's okay. You're back here and you're here for a good movie. And John, you're here for a good movie, which a lot of times we do bring you in for some stinky ones too. So
yes.
Lately we've been pretty harsh on you. So, you know,
especially after the last one that we did.
Which one's that? I guess I don't know if we can talk about it yet, but all right, let's talk about it anyway.
Well, we know the girl who went on to be a rapper.
Oh yes, okay, yes, that one.
Yeah.
No. I was telling Paul about that. It was
That's why I'm not saying the name, but we did research and found out after the film that she's trying to be a rapper, a white rapper.
Yes, a white female rapper. And
yeah.
It doesn't usually work out very well for those people.
No, unless your name is Eminem, it certainly does not.
Well,
Iggy Azalea, I think, is the only successful one that I know of. But
no Vanilla Ice, anyone?
What Vanilla Ice? Oh, there you go. That just proves the point, I think, right there.
Rapping and selling shoes.
Yes, exactly. All right, so
Al Bundy.
This is not Cool as Ice that we're reviewing. It is Terminator 2.
Although it came out the same year.
Wow, did it? 91?
I believe so.
Oh, geez.
Oh, my goodness.
Or within a year. I believe it was.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. So there you go. Let me segue into Terminator 2, which is the movie we are here to review. Now, Terminator 2 is... Like I'm gonna go through with everybody. Like when's the first time you saw this movie, and did you see the first one first? Is gonna be my question. So I'm gonna go first. I saw this when it came out on video. My dad let me rent it, and my dad and watch it, which I was very surprised about because the last rated R movie I got to watch was RoboCop. So I was really excited to watch this one, and it was, my dad thought it was okay because it was very cartoony violence, it wasn't realistic. He then watched the original first one and would not let me watch that till I was 17 years old, until I was old enough to watch rated R movies. He thought the scene where the guy, that Arnold Schwarzenegger rips the guy's heart out in the first movie was a little bit too rough for a kid to watch, be able to watch, which it's not like he, is like that or anything. Like he doesn't generally care, but I think he thought I might be a little freaked out by it or something. I don't know. So he made sure I was like old enough. And when I watched it, and I actually liked the second one way better than the first anyway. So it was almost like sort of disappointing. But anyway, Paul, you're next. How did you see it? And did you see the first one first?
Saw it in the theater when it came out, probably like the second or third night. And yeah, I saw the first one pretty much the same thing because I was a big fan. So loved the first movie, loved the second movie. So was all ready to see it. All
right. There you go. How about you, Joe?
Well, I saw the second one, this one first. So I saw it at Old Patch Henry Theater in Patch Henry Mall. It was first week or so that it came out. The preview was just absolutely amazing, and I was just like, that's when the back of my video store days. But I saw the I was just like, I got to see this, and then I saw the first one soon after, and the first one was a little bit of a letdown after seeing the second one, but that's kind of I don't want to say it too negating the first one, because the first one is really good. It's just, I mean, it's children. It's really good. It's just the second one. It's just it's in a league of its own, in my opinion. But so out of order for me. But and the interesting thing is you could watch. We'll get into it with the story, but you can actually watch the second one first, and it's fine to do that. Sometimes it's not, but this one it was. So yeah, second first for me.
Definitely. What about you, John?
I saw the original in the theater first, but it's beef when bootlegging was a thing, like a big thing. I had a VHS. I got like a bootleg of like The Evil Dead before we knew who Sam Raimi was. This is before it was totally released. And then I being a Roger Corman fan, I loved the film Piranha and heard they made a sequel, and then got a bootleg of Piranha 2: The Spawning, and had no idea who anybody was on that. And then when the Terminator came out, I'm like, hey, that's the guy who made Piranha 2. Hey, that's the guy who was in Piranha 2, which was Lance Hendrickson.
Right.
And I'm like, that is really cool. And I actually think the Terminator is still better than Terminator 2. Visually and effects wise and all that, obviously Terminator 2 is better. But I think just the Terminator is just a great action film. It's a great slasher movie. A lot of people consider it to be a slasher film. The soundtrack is great. Arnie is great. You know, it's Stan Winston. I mean, it's to me, it's would be on my top 5 list. So
I think the biggest difference, in my opinion, is the level of humor. There's more humor in Terminator 2 than there is in the first Terminator. First Terminator is pretty dark.
It is, and I'm glad that Schwarzenegger had to go off and make Conan the Destroyer, so they had to wait because they're going to shoot this in Canada. I'm sorry, the first one in Canada, and they ended up having to shoot it in LA, which is perfect for that type of film. So it's nice to see that the second one still does the same thing, and I think LA is like a perfect place for the Terminator films to be in. But we all know and we allow the humor. Like, Schwarzenegger putting on the sunglasses and Bad to the Bone comes on. We all know what that's totally for the audience. We love it. We all cheered when he did it. And that's all it is. It's because there's no reason for him to wear the sunglasses.
Right.
It's just none of that. And
this close to pandering, but it doesn't go over the line.
Right. James Cameron knows exactly what that line is drawn. And which is weird is that an old friend said that he had a friend who was living in India and he never saw the trailer for Terminator 2, but he did see the Terminator. And when he went in, he thought Schwarzenegger was the bad guy, until he started,
right. He was supposed to be
defending John Connor. But I don't see how anybody could find that possible, especially with the humor that's in it. Bad to the Bone, the sunglasses, all that stuff.
That's one of the big changes, and he wisely took what was there, switched things around. The other thing that was a big change, and to Terminator 2's credit, was the development of Linda Hamilton's character, because she's very sweet and but kind of helpless in the first one, and I always felt so bad for her character, and you just want to help her. You don't have to worry about helping her in the second movie. She's bad. She's the one who's bad to the bone, and Man, that scene where you see her back is turned and she's doing her pull-ups and you're seeing the muscles, dude. I was like, swing! Holy shit! Linda Hamilton is a fucking babe.
She became Ripley. She became another Ripley, and I think a lot of that has to do with James Cameron becoming a part of Aliens. When he went on to Aliens, he probably worked with Sigourney Weaver and that, and kind of started sort of in his mind, like saying, well, this, Linda Hamilton can't be like this chick who's, whatever. She has to be tough in this next one, because otherwise audiences are not going to care for her anymore. Like, right. She has to be a badass.
But that's one of the big things and why it's such a plus to have seen the first Terminator first, because it's a journey for her character. She doesn't start off like that. Same thing with Ripley. Ripley's not that, I mean, she's tough in the first one, but not quite as tough as she becomes later on. And I like to see that. I love to see a development of characters. That's why I can't stand to see so many characters in today's movies, these female ones, where they just start off being perfect Mary Sue badasses just off the bat, and there's nothing anybody can do.
Disney Star Wars.
Yeah,
Disney Star Wars.
They don't.
I won't even do that while coughing. I'll
don't earn
say it first, then cough. Yeah, all this stuff like Disney and all of that now with the new Star Wars, they're all Mary Sue's. That's what the most annoying thing is.
Right. I mean, but I mean, it happens with a lot of stuff in Hollywood now. Especially because they want women empowerment. But like, you have to remember, Buffy didn't start out as like a tough chick, I mean, especially in the movie, she was just this, chick who didn't want anything to do with that stuff. Then all of a sudden she became a badass. And then later in the TV series, they kind of more being able to explore that, it was a different actor, but it was still, the same character, in a different school, So, I mean, you don't start off the people being this, awesome, badass character who, as Paul pointed out, can't do anything wrong, because the problem is where you go from there after that. Like, how do you develop a character? Even to go into guy stuff territory, was it Walter White? At first he was really weak, and then he became stronger and stronger. By the end of it, he's like a kingpin, like that's what you have to do with these stories. You have to make them. The only thing I didn't like is later in the years, they really didn't know how to play Linda Hamilton later, in the other
the problem
movies.
with that is, of course, she'd gotten involved with James Cameron and personal stuff going on, and I guess that didn't end too well.
Yeah. I don't know much about that stuff, but I just know that her progression later, she left the movies for a couple of things, then came back in the last one, and I thought she was one of the worst parts of it. No offense. I was cool to see her for a second, and then I was like, oh man, I kind of wish they didn't bring her back.
I know.
A lot of these later ones are sort of just you watch them once and it's just sort of forgotten, at least in my stand.
Sure.
I've forgotten most of them now. It basically comes down to the first two, and I mean, I guess to a certain degree, three, but not really, but it's two. But one thing, seeing it out of sequence and not seeing the buildup of where Linda Hamilton came from, her character came from, seeing her reaction to Arnold when she falls, when he kind of turns the corner of the elevator, and her shock and all that, I'm like, what the hell she's so terrified about? And then it's like, after seeing the first one, it's like, okay, this makes sense now.
Yeah.
And it really shows her character, how it really changed. And I guess Cameron pushed for her to for awards for this. He tried to campaign for her to do like they did for Ripley and all. Unfortunately, she didn't get nominated or anything.
And in addition to Ripley, I think she's only partially Ripley. I think the other thing that she's really, if you're looking at an Aliens comparison, Jeanette Goldstein's character in Aliens, that sort of tough, physical Marine chick. I think there's a lot of her that got transferred into Linda Hamilton's character.
Well, and that's the funny thing with Cameron is that he's a total womanizer. You know, that's why he keeps cheating on every single wife and getting divorced from every single wife and marrying the person that he cheated on them with. But the thing is, this guy champions for strong women. So it's funny that when you have women out there going, there are no strong female characters. James Cameron, the biggest womanizer out there, has created some of the biggest female characters out there. And I just find it very funny that the guy that they dislike for cheating on his wife is the one who's created some of the best characters out there.
Well, I guess that goes to say with like Joss Whedon too. He's gotten a lot of crap for, but I don't think he womanizes, but he definitely doesn't treat the women really nicely on his set, but he creates these amazing women, so, I mean, I guess it just depends on the filmmaker.
Be fair. I mean, he didn't really treat very many people very well on the set, men included.
Yeah.
No, but it's I love Cameron, and he's been tied with Spielberg for me, a favorite actor for like 20 years now. Since Cameron hasn't done much lately, he's kind of fallen to the wayside. But it's watching like the making of Aliens, the scene where the face hugger jumps off like the cabinet, and I think it's supposed to be aiming at Newt maybe. In the making of, you see these guys who don't know how to use fishing line, they don't know to use gloves, and Cameron is there getting annoyed. Here's a guy who came from the school of Roger Corman, and he knows, and he tells these guys who are the like effects guys and all that, he's like, what are you doing? Go get fishing line, attach it, and then the guy attaches it, and he goes, why aren't you wearing gloves? Go get gloves, you're going to cut yourself. So I can understand him being annoyed. I get it. I understand, because he's telling people how to do their job. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that, okay. And he's always behind the camera. He's always working on the effects and props. He's doing everything. He's a total hands-on guy. So yeah, maybe he is difficult to work with, but there's a reason for that, is because people are not doing their jobs correctly.
Sure. And I think you're going to see a lot more comparisons with Terminator 2 and Aliens, because they're really companion pieces, more so than Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, in my opinion, because of the style that James Cameron shoots it in, the way he injects, the strong women, the way he injects humor into things. Like I said, he treads the line. It comes close to, like at one point where Arnold Schwarzenegger says, I need a vacation. Yeah, no, come on.
That's a little...
That was over. But that was like one of the very few ones. You know what I mean? When it does have humor, usually Edward Furlong is the guy who kind of comes in and says something, and he can get away with it because he's the teenager. You know what I mean? So it kind of works for that.
Let's talk about him real quick, because as far as I remember, like that was like Edward Furlong's first movie.
It was.
He was.
I think it introduced him.
Came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere, and he was phenomenal.
Well,
what?
One, they found him at a kids center. Is they put out a casting call for young kids, and the casting director went to like a youth center, where they play sports and all that. And he wasn't even auditioning, and they asked him to audition. I was going to ask you guys, is Edward Furlong the Jake Lloyd, from Phantom Menace of Terminator 2?
No, not at all.
I didn't totally like him initially when I first saw the movie, but he really grew on me by the time the movie ended. I thought he did a pretty good job.
He has his moments. He does, but he's not a great actor because he's not an actor.
Well, so what? Actually, some of the great Johnny Depp was not an actor. He was a musician. He did a phenomenal job acting, I mean,
phenomenal. That's giving.
Oh my!
I mean, come on, phenomenal would be Orson Welles or something. I mean, that's Johnny Depp is fine, just like in Nightmare on Elm Street, but that's fine. And Edward Furlong. I mean, look what happened to the guy. I mean, he didn't improve as an actor. He's kind of stayed the same in every single movie.
He's been in a few indies that I saw that were pretty good, but he hasn't really done much since
I
then.
think his probably high points was probably like American History X and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that he was good in. Yeah.
So now I'm just thinking of some.
I liked him in Pecker.
I mean, he is. I mean, he's not horrible, but I'm just saying, is he, because it's his first film? Is he kind of the Jake Lloyd, of this movie?
I wouldn't say that.
And I don't even think why do we gotta say Jake Lloyd
was pretty bad?
Because Jake Lloyd was bad in Phantom Menace.
But yeah, but I think that was a lot of that was the writing. I mean, George Lucas could not write for an 8-year-old kid, or whatever to save his life. I don't think so.
I mean, even a good writing at times can't save bad kid acting.
Yeah, that kid was very wooden.
No.
I mean, look at Christian Haydenson. He had he's an adult and he's sand. I hate sand. It gets everywhere.
That's because Anakin Skywalker is such a bland character. He's like the worst character in all of fucking Star Wars.
Oh no.
Human character, I guess, or whatever.
No. First of all, they're not human. They're humanoid. They're not from Earth. They're humans. Okay. They're humanoid. Come on. All of the Disney stuff is
nerd
with Ray is awful.
Nerd fight.
I'm talking about George Lucas shit, but all right. If you want to bring in Disney shit, yes. I mean,
well, you have to, because they're all part of the same thing. So it's but I think that he tried his best in this, and he gave 100%. Everybody gave 100%, unlike Schwarzenegger in Terminator 3, who was just there for the paycheck, that who kind of walks through it. But I thought everybody did 100% on Terminator 2. What ending do you like better?
What
ending to Terminator 2 do you like better?
I don't remember. I only remember the thumbs up.
I've read about the second ending, but I've never seen it. I read one to where she's like Linda Hamilton's like grown up and she's talking to Edward Furlong, grown up, and he has like a daughter or something.
There's 2 endings. I have this, and I also have this too. But this has the theatrical version, which the ending is. He goes down with the thumbs up. It fades out on her face, on Linda Hamilton's face, and then it's a car going down a highway at night.
Yeah, that's the one I saw last night.
Yeah, and it's kind of up in the air of what's going on. So that's the theatrical one. In the special edition, which is like 30 minutes longer, it's the coda ending, which has her 40 years later with a grown-up John, and he's in the park, and she talks about Michael Jackson turning 40. And he's playing with his kid and into a little girl, and it never happened. Like, that's the defining ending, that there could never be a part 3. That it does end. This is cool, and I'm curious if the Blu-ray is the same. Technically, this has 3 versions. So there's the theatrical, there's the special edition, and then there's like a special edition. If you type in a certain code into it, it incorporates where the T-1000 goes into John's room and starts feeling everything. So it makes it like 2 or 3 minutes longer. Huh. So there's actually like 3 versions of the film, which that's the one I prefer because it's the longest.
I did not know about the special version.
Yeah, it's a you can find, if you Google like Terminator 2 Easter egg, it gives you the code. And then you have to go to a certain place on the menu and you type it in through your remote.
Oh, Jesus.
And it will add it automatically to the movie.
So it'll feel like just like a regular alternate version, like a full version. It'll just play nice.
Exactly. Yeah, like after the T-1000 kills the dog, because he sees that it says Max, it cuts to another scene. When that scene's done, it goes like back to the T-1000 going through the room. I
mean, I've seen the longer version once, and I thought it was interesting. It was pretty cool, but
it's so much better than the theatrical.
Versus the 40 or 50 times I've seen the original version, so I'm kind of used to the original version.
Yeah, this would the ultimate edition, which is what this is called, is so much better. I think I'll never watch the theatrical version again. There's so much stuff missing.
Wow.
for the
I guess,
theater.
I guess on that front too, you can disregard all the other Terminators because it gives you a finite ending for this one too.
Yeah.
It's interesting because some movies it's good when they do that. Other movies it doesn't necessarily help. Like I got all excited to watch the much longer version of Apocalypse Now, and by the end of it, I was like, man, I can see why they cut a lot of that stuff out and went with the the version that was released in the theaters because it was just cleaner and better.
Well, okay. So to go into the thing, there is a deleted scene that I did see. I don't know why I never saw maybe I did see the original alternate ending, but I never. But anyway, I saw the one because you could actually one of them you can actually have all of them incorporated back in to the movie. I think if I remember correctly, and so the deleted scene of the dog getting killed or whatever, and then him grabbing the name Max out, or whatever.
That's not deleted.
Well, that's not in the original version. Theatrical version.
I believe it is.
No, it's not.
I don't think it's on the regular Blu-ray that I watched.
No.
I don't think
Him killing the dog isn't?
No.
I don't think so because
I would have hated the movie if I had.
I was about to say you would have had a much different reaction from movies.
Well, remember, Terminators hate dogs because dogs can sniff them out.
Well, I don't care.
That's why he's barking.
Yeah, but that's I don't need to see that. And it's very.
Well, we don't see it.
No, because what they did was they cut. It had Furlong calling from the payphone, and then Jeanette Goldstein, as the mom, was basically the Terminator was in her. Patrick was in her. And they play they do the little voice joke about Wolfie or Max, and that's when Xander Berkeley gets killed, and then
it just cuts to her after
because
leaving.
they're like, and he says,
okay,
her parents are dead. That's
I haven't seen the theatrical. The only time I saw it was originally. I've only watched the extended one. So
by the way, there's Jeanette Goldstein again, of course.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, and she's in Titanic.
Oh,
she's a favorite. She's a favorite. That's a great thing about Cameron is that he always brings people back. He worked with Michael Biehn a few times. Of course, Sigourney Weaver was in Avatar.
Michael Biehn was in the cut scenes which I guess were in the extended cut or whatever. But the scene
Terminator 2.
Terminator 2 where he comes in and talks to her in a dream or whatever,
Yeah, because we were really surprised about that when the original trailer came out. He's in the trailer talking to her, saying you have to save our son, and then we go to see the movie and he's nowhere to be found. It's
Now,
like, what
you
the hell?
guys probably all know, or at least you should know, that at one point there was a talk to make a Terminator Aliens crossover movie.
I wouldn't doubt it.
It just never came.
Well, they did but they did it in the comics, I believe.
They did in the comics.
So, but it would have been great if you could have saw that, or I think they even did a video game or something, Terminator versus Alien or something, or whatever. But
Sega Genesis or something.
Yeah, Sega Genesis or something. But I never played it because honestly, because when I was a kid, I did not like Aliens. Wasn't a big Aliens fan.
Wow.
I
Really?
just wasn't into it. But I grew into it like years later in life, and everything. So
well, it would have been very interesting, especially if you cross some of these characters. And who doesn't want to see Linda Hamilton and come on, brain, Sigourney Weaver in the same movie, being ass-kicking action heroes, but. The thing is that for whatever reason, it didn't take, and James Cameron didn't really have much interest in it. And you cannot turn over that material to somebody other than James Cameron because he's already mastered both of those characters and stories.
What if it was both of them plus the versus the Predator as well? Like, what if it was all three of those things meshed into one, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator has to help them destroy the Predator too?
But then wouldn't he have a dual role there? Because
he would. Yeah, but I'm saying he wouldn't be the character from Predator.
Then he'd be saying things like, "I'm too old for this."
But that's why we'll probably never get any of those because Terminator is so weird with its copyrights. That it's now that Cameron, owns them again. It's possible that he and to we've already brought up the sequels, but of course he did the Universal ride Terminator 2 3D, which he did consider to be his part 3, and which pisses me off, and because he did say that he was going to do a part 3. I don't hate part 3, but it's not James Cameron. I think, and James Cameron gave his blessing for Schwarzenegger, but I think Schwarzenegger kind of just walks through it. What's her face who plays the Terminator in that? What is she not? She's not a T-1000. She's a T. What is she, like a T-5000 or something like that? Because something like that. But I thought she did a good job. I thought she was 100% there. But then, Linda Hamilton, they say her character died of cancer, which is fucked up. Let's not bring her back in any of the other movies. But then it's funny that the TV show retconned that.
And then Dark Fate brought her back. So like she did come back.
Well, because Dark Fate is a direct sequel to part 2 and it sucks. So it's a giant woke piece of garbage. So and then Genesis ruined everything because it would have worked if you 3 works with 2, and then I think Salvation works with 3, but then Genesis, if they just would have cut that beginning off, where you see like Kyle meets John Connor and he meets them in the a sewer or something. If they just would have nicked that, it would have matched with Salvation, because the next step with Salvation is to then get the time machine and go back to LA. But that ruined it, because they're like, oh, that's now a sequel to part 2. No, just fuck you. I've sat through 4 movies now, and you're not going to give me my ending.
The other thing that was supposed to happen was after Terminator 2, they were supposed to do another Terminator movie that was set more in the darker universe, where the John character is leading the resistance against the Terminators on Earth during that rebellion and during that phase when Skynet's taking over, and that part where they're walking around crushing on skulls and stuff like that. That was supposed to have been fleshed out to a whole movie, and apparently that one got a little bit further along the way, but it looked like it was going to cost an awful lot of money to do what he wanted to do, and B, I think a lot of the people in the studios said that's going to be too dark, and I don't think people are going to want to see that, which is a shame, because I freaking would have. That would have been even better, but we just weren't able to go that way, unfortunately.
Well, the movie is called Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and many of it is about Judgment Day. And the thing is, I looked it up because I was curious. After this happened, after that stuff happens, that means Judgment Day got moved, or Judgment Day is gone. My thought was Judgment Day is gone, then it would whatever. No, I guess it got moved to another time and another time. Each time that they made another movie, they just said like, oh, it's now it's now 2003. Oh, now it's 2000 and whatever, But it's ridiculous because did we keep needing it to be called Judgment Day? I guess I don't know.
Well, no, that's why 3 is called Rise of the Machines,
right?
So it's they say in with part 3 is that it basically just got moved. See, there's problems with these types of films. Like when Star Trek 4 came out, they were they go back in time with the whales and all that stuff. They were throwing around ideas for like the next film, and one of them was to save Kennedy from getting assassinated. And they kept throwing these ideas around, always coming back to it no matter what, Kennedy is going to be killed. So they threw those ideas away. So if you're going to make a Terminator 3, you have to have Judgment Day happen, or at least call it something else.
Right.
Because if you don't, what are they just going to do? 2 hours of them sitting in a park?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too, though, remember with time travel, you can pretty much do anything you want. So even if you have a Judgment Day, someone's going to go back in time and change it and push it down the line even further. I mean, that's the thing about, the great MacGuffin is anything involving time travel, because whatever you've established, you can or you can unestablish and change up,
Well, okay. So, and this might just be me thinking way too much, but if they had And I guess maybe Terminator 3 explain thing. I forgot. I have not seen Terminator 3 since I saw it in the theaters and stuff. I even own it and have never watched it on DVD or Blu-ray or anything. But what is it? If they destroyed all, and they destroyed Cyberdyne systems or whatever, right? They destroyed Skynet, which I don't think hadn't even formed yet from Cyberdyne systems. So they destroyed all that. They destroyed the chip. They destroyed the arm, right? Which were basically the way that they had thought about doing it, and they were able to make everything happen. Then how come like everything still happens? How wouldn't that change like everything that came before with John like sending people in? Like
not necessarily.
Would the future, would he still be the resistance? Would there still be people creating these the same robots and stuff? I don't know.
The military does. In part 3, they create the hunter killers.
Okay, so it's a different company that just does it. It's just like that's just inevitable.
Plus, when you have reality and you start forking out of it, and you start focusing on one, it doesn't mean the other ones necessarily go away. They will change, but it just makes more forks, and you have different stuff going in different directions. Now you've altered the timeline, but there's all kinds of other different timelines where all kinds of other stuff is going on that we'll never get to see.
Multiverse.
Yeah, in the multiverse.
Well, and that's why I thought with Genesis, they had a perfect opportunity. Now, I'm not a huge J.J. Abrams fan, but I liked what he did with Star Trek. I like that he kind of created these two different timelines. So, there could be the original Star Trek, and then there could be his Star Trek. And I liked it. I didn't like the other two movies so much, but I did like what he did to kind of branch it out. And I thought that was fine. So when I was watching Genesis, I'm like, okay, they're doing the same thing. Kyle comes back. Time has changed. We got some stuff for Terminator 2. We got some stuff from, like the Asian cop now. It's not, Robert Patrick, who's the T-1000. Sarah's now all buffed up and he's confused. He doesn't know what to do. I thought that was a good idea. If you're going to do something like that, we could end the original series, have Kyle go back, and now a whole new timeline starts. That wouldn't have bothered me.
Got to make that crystal
clear. But they screwed it up at that little bit at the beginning, and that kind of messed everything up. And then of course they're like, well, shit, that's screwed up. But now we got to do it again with Dark Fate, which was horrible.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that it felt like there wasn't a lot of organic reason to go from the first Terminator to the second Terminator, other than, bringing in the T-5000, which, let's face it, I think that was because the special effects had, the level of special effects had gone up between the last movie to this movie. So that begs the question, how do you go from the T-1000 to the next big technological jump where it's still really good and it's still quality and it's still really, really cool? They weren't even really able to do that with any of the other movies, and
they talked about. I was reading something that Terminator 2 was ready to be made when Cameron knew it was ready when some of the stuff he was able to do in the Abyss. So he could do some of the special effects, some of the stuff
that liquid metal stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when he knew. Then it just became an issue of getting the funding and the studio rights in order and getting all the I's dotted, T's crossed and stuff like that. But personally, to me, I kind of consider the series ending at 2. I mean, like I like John's talking about 3, and that's good because I'm one of the few people that have said okay to it a little bit, but then it just starts going off the rails to me. But,
too confusing.
And I think 4 works with it. I think if you kind of wanted to make it a quadology, it works. As long as I wish that they would have put in when they released Terminator 3, kind of do the same thing like they did, with this, and that you could add in the Sergeant Candy scene. Because everybody, would make fun of Schwarzenegger with his accent. Why would you make a Terminator with an Austrian accent? Well, Terminator 3 actually explains it. But they cut it out, which doesn't make any sense. because they have Schwarzenegger who just sounds like a dumb hick, and then you got this little guy, this like little military guy who sounds like Schwarzenegger, saying, "Don't worry, we'll change it." And it's funny. It's actually a good scene that they for some reason cut out.
Hey, so would they should they have put in the scene where Christian Bale yells at his cinematographer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chris
I kind of approached the Terminator series much like I approached the Star Wars series. I like the first two, especially the second one, and then everything after that is just garbage in my opinion. I just don't ever look at it.
No Jedi? No Return of the Jedi?
No. Awful. Awful.
See, this could go off into way off the rails into a longer discussion. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's try to keep it to Terminator 2.
I'm trying to hesitate to say anything else Star Wars related because I know that it'll just open up all cans of worms every which way for everybody. So,
well, I will say while watching Terminator 2 this time around, because I watched it a couple hours ago again. I've already seen it like 6 times. Why not 7? Is while watching it, it is definitely a film, and it's of that time period that you want to go make a movie after watching it. Those films don't exist anymore. Like you go to a theater, you watch a movie that you're so into and is so amazing with the writing, the directing, the effects, the editing, the music, everything in it works. Even that theatrical version works. That you leave going, I want to make a movie. I now want to go out and make a film. I have not found that.
Not in Hollywood. Unfortunately, you go out there thinking, why did I spend all this money on that?
I think they are few and far between, really few and far between nowadays. I think there was one that came out this year that got me interested like that. And I don't know if any of you have seen it at the Everything Everywhere All at Once. That got me going.
I've heard it's good.
Yeah, that one's got me going. But what you're saying makes perfect sense. The magic,
I've also heard The Northman is one of those ones that is like
Northman doesn't hold back.
Guillermo del Toro is just about the only guy I can think of that I get excited and I want to see everything he does. So
yeah.
But now special effects are so routine in a lot of films. It feels routine. It doesn't feel magical.
Right.
Well, I would agree with that because there's no, and I know Jonathan's a Marvel fan, but to me, every Marvel film is the same. All the effects are the same.
Yep.
If you go into Captain America and you go to see Captain Marvel, and then you see Black Widow, they're the same movie.
We have to save the universe. How many freaking times you have to save?
Well, yeah, and they fall 8 miles from the sky, and they land in a dumpster, and they're perfectly fine.
No, they don't land on. They land with their pose. They land with their superhero pose,
which shouldn't be since Black Widow has no superpowers. She should be dead anytime that happens. But it's there's with all those effects, like in the Avengers and I'll even say DC movies. The Zack Snyder stuff. There's no thrill anymore because they're all the same. We all know Aquaman's going to glide down out of the sky on some piece of rubble and just land perfectly fine, like he did in, I think it was just
except Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones was different, and that's why I like Jessica Jones more than I like anything else from Marvel.
Well, say goodbye to Jessica Jones.
Of course,
Marvel has or Disney has Jessica Jones now.
Yeah, I know. And if they weren't going to suppress it, then they would remake it and destroy it. So
that's probably what they're going to end up doing, actually, at some point, just so they can bring the Defenders back. But anyway, it's a whole Marvel discussion for another day. We're talking Terminator 2, but you're right. And the special effects in this. So I was watching it on the 4K, and I say it like the quote. Because it was terrible looking.
Really?
It did not look good. Ooh.
Disappointing.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. Even Vincent Pereira pointed out to me, he was like, because I said glorious 4K, and he was like, glorious? No. This is like the worst 4K transfer that you've ever seen. And I noticed that it did not look nearly as good. And the one thing I really hated that I guess they were able to do is there's one scene where I forgot which part exactly, but there was like some stuff you could see CGI, or whatever, and it looked like they added something, or whatever. It was it was the scene with what's his name, the cop, the bad guy, the T-1000.
Patrick.
Yeah, Robert Patrick. When he gets to when they both come to Earth, right, and they have the electricity point out, and then it all of a sudden the I guess the truck or whatever that was there, and then there's like this big hole in the ground.
There's hole and like singeing on the fencing and stuff like that.
It was awful in 4K. It looked very obvious. I remember seeing that movie and not noticing that ever. And that's the problem with 4K is these movies weren't made in 4K. So when they do the 4K transfer, those little things that looked okay when they did it because it looked darker, you could barely notice it,
But
was very noticeable.
you can
That's
spend
why I
a
stick
little
with
bit
this.
of money and clean that up, which is what they should do. So come on, studio, you have one job if you're going to re-release stuff like that.
Some-
Buffy's look horrible on Blu-ray.
Well,
because they just didn't care.
James Cameron's too busy with his Avatar movies to actually go in there and help fix these things that need to get fixed.
But not these. Not that was the whole thing with like this and then these. Back in the day when Cameron cared about this stuff, these were supervised by him.
Yeah.
He put this stuff together. So when I watched this today, I was like, man, this still holds up. All that CGI still looks better than a lot of the stuff today. Yeah. And this was what, 92 or something?
So I'll wait for a Blu-ray or 4K of that to come out then.
Yeah, because when I put this on, everything in there was talking about it's the best. Well, so like THX pops up and says, this was recorded with the best THX sound that you can get.
Right.
So so this is how
the Dolby Atmos or whatever the sound that they had for the 4K was god awful. It is terrible. Like I remember seeing it on DVD and having better surround sound than the surround sound that I had in this 4K. It was just
very disappointing.
Yeah, it was disappointing.
I have the Blu-ray and Blu-ray, and I watched the DVD more than the Blu-ray. But on the Blu-ray, it had at the beginning, it had the liquid metal that formed the THX logo.
Yeah, which sounds great.
Oh yeah,
that was great.
Yeah,
I think the only problem is like I don't know if it was which Blu-ray it was or something, but like I remember being very frustrated with the Blu-ray, like the menus and stuff were just like you had to like enter all these different things to get into the fucking movie or something. It was a pain in the ass.
The Blu-ray that I have, it said that it gave you like 20 seconds. It had like all these different options, things, different type of menus, and then said if you don't pick something within 30 seconds and it count down, it was like it's going to start the movie. I was like, okay,
it was something ridiculous or something, but I didn't like it. I'd rather have a regular menu. Don't try to be.
Yeah, don't be too clever with the packaging, please.
Right, exactly.
Well, unless it does something. Like I said, with this, you got that code where you can make a third movie. Then it makes it worth it. It's worth it. Yeah. And with like cool. Jonathan talking about quality, it's like I got the Night of Living Dead, the original Criterion version.
Nice.
No, the film is crystal clear and looks awful.
Uh-huh.
You can see there's one scene in it where a zombie hand comes through the door, Ben goes up and he cuts it, and it's clearly rubber. Like you could see the outline of the rubber, and the hand cuts off and it falls to the floor, and you get a shot of this rubber hand. No, that's not how I want to watch it. I don't care if it's Criterion or not. I have been on a mission to find the shittiest possible version of Night of the Living Dead to give it that total authentic, almost like documentary look, because certain films should not look good.
Yeah, I hear you. It looks like it should have been sitting out in the rain for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
right. Well,
John, I have the VHS copy from Blockbuster. The Blockbuster Presents Night of the Living Dead on VHS. That one's pretty. I think it's like an EP at that.
Right.
And that probably looks great.
Look.
Yeah.
So my co-host for 80s horror films, Rebecca Reinhardt, she and I have this discussion all the time because 80s movies are constantly redone in 4K or Blu-ray or whatever, and a lot of times they will point it because it will be in high definition. it'll look shittier than the movie originally
Yeah.
was made, because that wasn't the definition it was made in, you know.
Correct.
So and that's the point of 4K, is to try to make it better, right? But the problem is you're now just making all these really bad, shitty effects that was great because they were shitty effects that were dark or whatever. Now it's coming to light and you can see it more, and you're like, oh, that looks
So you're
terrible.
saying that I may not enjoy the Blu-ray version of Suburban Sasquatch because the special effects in it look worse?
Maybe. I don't know. Well, actually, you might like that even more because
Muffy, no.
because the special effects look worse. But that's a different movie.
We've talked about two different pieces of this here, and I think it kind of makes could make an interesting discussion. The seeing the movies nowadays in 4K that are made in 4K and they're crystal clear, and they lose that magical feel. And then you got these older movies that once they transfer to 4K, you see some stuff exposed. It's like, where's the balance of actually making sure that you see the magic as well as seeing the quality?
It all kind of depends. That's why, and I forget his name because I'm a cow brain at this point in my life, but dude who worked come on, 2001 and Stanley Kubrick, guy who oversaw all that stuff, is partially going back and editing and doing all of that, doing all the digital cleanup for every single one of his movies, because he knows what Stanley Kubrick would have wanted like that. And so any of his movies that are coming out, they look absolutely gorgeous. But unfortunately, not every single movie has an advocate for that. Usually it's just some suit in the studio saying, oh yeah, let's just run it through. It doesn't really matter. All you have to do is upload it and boom, you're done.
Yeah,
and
your 4K might not even be that 4K might not be even much of an oversaw transfer.
A cheap, crappy way of doing it. And it's because they don't care. They know people are going to buy it.
Yep.
Like I said, look what happened to the Buffys. Everybody cried when the Buffy Blu-rays came out because they just looked awful. They didn't bother to change the aspect ratio. They didn't bother to change anything, and it looked really, really bad.
Well, yeah, because the only company that was shooting in 4K for like 20 years was Sony.
Yeah.
And they downgraded everything. So all their movies that come out 4K are actually shot in 4K, but nobody else's are. I used to work at Best Buy and I used to sell televisions for Samsung. We would always lose out to Sony, always, because their 4K is real. Ours, Samsung's wasn't.
So,
yeah.
I will just say this. I'm going to switch topics real quick, but so the kid Danny, Dyson's son, Miles Dyson's son, he's actually a very, very big actor now. He's on a show on HBO Max called Winning Time, and he actually is playing his father, who was a famous Los Angeles Lakers person. And so rewatching this movie was really kind of sweet because I got to see him as a little kid running around. Now I'm watching the show as is, and it's really awesome. Like,
wait, he's on Winning Time?
Yeah, he plays his name is Devon Nixon, and he was the little kid who played Danny and Danny.
But who's he play in Winning Time?
He plays Nixon. What is his name?
Norman Nixon.
Norman Nixon. Norman Nixon.
Yeah. He was
okay.
one of the big players.
So he's the one who goes up against Magic Johnson, in the Lakers stuff. So it's really cool. Like, it's really neat that they actually got the son of the real guy, and he was and I didn't know, like, he was the kid from Terminator 2 until recently, and I was like, that's really cool.
While it's funny. Terminator 2, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Joe Morton. He kind of has an unsung role in Terminator 2, and I thought he was really, really good. And I always felt bad about his ending, That's okay. So both of you guys. So I'm glad that you brought them up because I wanted to. One, I'm always surprised that they never had Miles' son as an adult in one of the Terminator movies,
right?
Saying. Either like continuing his dad's work or maybe, trying to kill a Terminator or something like that. That seems so obvious to me. that they would have brought him in. Now, the thing with Joe Morton, that all comes from, and I love Joe Morton for one reason, the brother from another planet. That started everything for him, the John Sayles movie. So if you know James Cameron put him in Terminator 2, it's because of the brother from another planet. If he's in the Justice League, you know Zack Snyder is a fan of the brother from another planet. That was his thing. You gotta have Joe Morton in your film because of that movie. That itty bitty little film of this guy just like walking around, you know, these kind of urban areas and stuff. He became giant because of that. And everybody's like, let's get the guy from that movie. And I think that's awesome. It's almost like you get, you know, certain actors have to play vampires, you know, or certain actors have to play certain things. You know, you want to see Rutger Hauer, you know, play a vampire because he's already done it like 2 or 3 times. So it's like, oh yeah, let's get him to play a vampire. Or, you know, what's his face who did Andy Warhol's Dracula. I'm blanking on his name, but you know, you have him as a mad scientist or as a vampire. It's that one movie that skyrockets everybody. And
you're talking Udo Kier?
Udo Kier, yeah. So if you make a vampire film, you want to have him play the king of the vampires.
Well, fortunately, you know, he's able to show more of his range in Terminator 2, which is good. I dig Brother from Another Planet. That's always fun. Would love to do that on Indie Film Cafe because it is an indie film. But like I said, he does get to show his chops in this, and he's kind of the one character that I always feel bad for in Terminator 2, especially that whole part where he's, you know, trying to hold the bomb.
It's such a great scene.
It is. It's a great scene.
Just him losing his breath. Just a.
That was just like, oh shit.
Yeah, he doesn't want those guys to die. You know, he's like giving them a warning. Get out.
Yeah, get out.
You know.
And I love that because I like when I rewatched it, I was like, oh shit, like I forgot because I haven't seen it in forever whether or not how long they were in there before he did the ha 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 and then, you know, blew everybody up and everything. So I was wondering if they made it out. Like I never saw them again, so I don't know. Did they make it out? Did they not make it out? The cops, like I don't know. You know, I'm wondering.
The cops don't care.
Oh, I care. Edward Furlong would disagree with you. John Connor wanted everybody to live.
I know.
Well, and you know, the funny thing with John Connor wanting everybody to live and him telling, the Terminator, Schwarzenegger, you can't kill anybody. A friend of mine pointed out, isn't shooting people in the kneecaps worse than killing them? Like now they're crippled for the rest of their lives. They're in wheelchairs. Like they're never going to, most of them probably lost their legs. So in a way, I don't know if Cameron thinks that's the better way to go, but
they're still alive. I mean,
no, but it's something a teenager might think would be good, but didn't really put a lot of thought behind it because they're a teenager.
He said, "Don't kill anybody," right?
And it was, it was,
and then what's his name?
They live.
He said, no, but at first he goes, "Trust me." Right? So he doesn't tell him what he's doing. He never saw it. And most of the time he's just shooting at them, or whatever, just shooting at the people at the top of the thing, just making them back away.
That's the minigun. When he's shooting out of the building, he even waits for the cops to move away from the car.
Right.
And then he shoots the car. But when they go up to the the mental ward place, he does shoot the guy in the leg.
That's true. Then when he said they'll live, he'll live.
He'll live. Yeah, he will, but with permanent leg damage. And
that
then
is a badass scene when he's up there shooting from the building to the cop cars, and you get to see his glowing eyes, and I was like, there you go. There's our original Terminator, our first Terminator movie right there. He gets to be himself again.
Yeah. And it says no casualties at the end. So it just goes to show you he's a different Terminator, even though he's the same one,
So his characters change too.
Well, saying that he's good and bad, I think I was that there was an AFI list of 100 heroes and villains and stuff like that. And this character is on there for both.
Well, there you go. Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. I mean, it's kind of
it'd be so nice to. Yeah, I wish that he would play a bad Terminator again. I really do.
Well, I just hated, and you said you hated John Dark Fate, but I just hated his involvement in Dark Fate. It felt so forced and so it was just
Need a paycheck.
obnoxious. It was just obnoxious, and
Well, he got cucked. He got cucked, and that's the thing. They demasculated him, so he sells drapes. That's what he does. He sells drapes. He's in a non-sexual relationship with a woman, and it's like everything about him is they just removed his manhood. There's nothing manly about this Terminator at all.
I guess he would probably crush her if they tried to have sex.
Well, they do comment about that, and that's when he tells, he says to Linda Hamilton that it's a non-sexual relationship,
right?
But why is he selling drapes? Why not have him work in a construction site?
Dude, yeah, he's a Terminator. He should be doing something.
Or security. I mean, come on.
Security guard, something where he could use at least a little bit of his skills.
Yeah.
Drapes. Yeah. And then you hear him like in the van talking to somebody about drapes. I would not use blue. Blue takes away from the room. And you're like, oh my God, what did you guys do to him? Please don't make any more.
Let's face it, he would not have had that programming. Remember, he's a machine. You have to program that shit in there. They did not send him back in the future with information about how to choose drapes.
Right, because they didn't mess with his brain, but with his chip. So the chip would make him learn to be a guy who sells drapes. But since they never did that, he's just a Terminator.
It was just a cheap way for them to try to be humorous.
Yeah.
Cheap is the word.
Yeah,
cheap.
Also, T2 has the humor, but it's ingratiated pretty well as a balance.
Well, you were talking before, Paul, about the humor of Terminator 2 and how much you loved it and everything. And honestly, the humor is kind of subtle. Like it's not in your face humor.
Not all the time, but mostly.
Sometime there might be a little bit.
The sunglasses that's very intentional.
But there is the greatest part of that. I forgot to mention earlier. Greatest part of that is when he was doing the bad to the bone, puts the sunglasses on. You see him get on the bike, and the guy's like, I need you to get off that bike, or whatever, right? And then he walks over, before he had the sunglasses, he goes over and he grabs the sunglasses from the guy, but you thought he was going to rip the guy's heart out.
Well, he takes the gun from him really fast. It's a great scene. Yeah. He just grabs it and then takes the sunglasses and puts them on. I think the best scenes of comedy are between him and Edward Furlong. Like when he's doing the give me five and the looks that Schwarzenegger's giving him, while he's doing that. Right. Especially when Edward Furlong pulls his hand away and goes, gotcha. And he looks at it and I'm like, I want to kill you.
And remember, this all works because in the first film, there was none of this stuff. There was no humor. He was a relentless killing machine, and it was dark and grim, and nobody in their right mind wanted to be anywhere near him. But because they played off of that, it makes the humor a whole lot better. In fact, it's the only reason the humor works.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the humor things that I really like, and it wasn't about, this was Robert Patrick, and it was really quick, and he didn't even say anything, but it was perfect. It was in the mall, and he walks by and he sees the mannequin. The silver mannequin, and he just gives a stare like and the look that he gives him is priceless. And I'm just like, and to me that humor works because it fits right in just in the motion of the action with he's in the mall and stuff like that. So it couldn't be done over the top and stuff like that.
You could almost see that as foreshadowing, and they don't do that at all. They don't have him just stand still in a store and then grab John as he runs by because he sees the mannequin. It's just that little moment of kind of acknowledging, oh, look, I look like that, But of course, nothing is as funny as talk to the hand, and putting on the Elton John sunglasses in part 3.
Oh, part 3. I was going to say, I don't remember any of that shit. In part 2.
He goes to the gay club there with all the women watching the gay strippers.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's women's night at the gay strip club, I guess.
In the opening where the bad to the bone scene happens, there was supposedly that scene was originally not going to get done, but they had to fight to get that scene done. And then they shot it on the night of the Rodney King riots in LA was when it actually got made. So it was just like, and then that scene's so famous over time. I remember when DirecTV did a commercial on it. They mimicked it. And when they were taking scenes from big movies and stuff like that, and they had that scene in there. And it's just, to me, that just launched it. It made it launch in a way that was going to be different than the original.
Yeah.
And by the way, I would be remiss not to point out all the different rip-off movies that came after that. You know, Lady Terminator and Robo Chick and all the different RoboCop. You know, even RoboCop sort of came out of this.
Yeah, they just kind of flipped it.
Yeah,
They kind of turned him inside out in a way. So
yeah, they made him more of the because at that time RoboCop wasn't Terminator wasn't the good guy. So the first time he was the bad guy. Then in RoboCop they were like, well, let's make him a cop and let's make him a good guy and then fight other robots and shit. So I love I love that. You're right. Like this movie sort of spawned, different stuff. We would be remiss without talking about the fact that this movie got a big lawsuit on its hands because Harlan Ellison had two Outer Limits, I think it was.
Yeah, it's the soldier and the man who was never born.
Yep.
So and at the end of, but the thing is, because people didn't realize technology, is the lawsuit only went as far as I believe the DVD for Terminator. So at the end of Terminator, it does say inspired by the works of Harlan Ellison, but it didn't go past that. So anything that Cameron does with Blu-ray, streaming, all that, they don't have to put it if they don't want to, because Ellison sues everyone.
Yeah. I
mean, that's just who he is.
Well, not anymore.
Well, yeah.
Unless his estate is still covering for him, or whatever. But
and I get it, I understand it. Well, there's a third Outer Limits film or episode that's called like the man with the glass hand.
Yeah.
So there's three, and he has like no finger, or he has fingers, and he pulls them off for each person. So there's three of them that this is good. That's the problem with James Cameron. As much as I love the guy and I've read books on him and watched documentaries and own all of his movies and all that, he has not had an original thought in his brain. Yeah. That's the problem. Piranha 2 is a sequel. Terminator's a ripoff on Harlan Ellison. The Abyss is a ripoff on Michael Crichton's Sphere. And then Aliens is
a sequel.
Aliens is a sequel, but it's also Starship Troopers. If you read the book, which came out in the 50s, they call them bug hunts. So, which is in the movie, but it's like everything. Yeah. Avatar is not original. I mean, it's
Fern Gully.
Yeah. Hey, Fern Gully or
True Lies, man. That's original to me.
No, it isn't. True Lies is based off of a French short film.
Jesus Christ, James Cameron. even True Lies.
Yeah. None of his stuff is original. He takes it from something else.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Here's a chance to do something original in the series. Why don't we come back with a gender swap female Terminator and go after the
TV show,
Joe Morton's son? Right. Not talking about the TV show.
Yeah, well, that's. I like the TV show. I watched it.
I've never seen it actually.
I enjoyed it. It's funny that it retcons part 3 because they do time travel. So they jump from part 2. Well, part 4 wasn't made yet, but they jump from part 2 to the TV show. So they bring up the cancer in the show, but because they jump part 3, she never dies of cancer.
Interesting.
And of course, Summer Glau is just awesome looking to look at. So
Summer Glau, I love her. I adore her. Since Serenity or Firefly or whatever, I just fell in love with her. So she's wonderful. I would say that is. I think we've said enough about Terminator. We've gone longer than an hour, and I think we could
do all kinds of things. You could have like a turtle Terminator. You could have a cow Terminator. You could have all kinds of animal Terminators. I mean, be fun.
Well, I got to add one last piece in there, and that this was right at the end of the musical time period that I absolutely loved. But Guns N' Roses, "You Could Be Mine" was in there. Great song. And I believe they had to delay their albums coming out because of the Terminator 2 soundtrack had to come out first because there was some legal crossovers or something that they couldn't put them out at the one had to come out before the other. But yeah, so when they played that in the movie, I was just like, this is great.
Yeah.
Well, and what's awesome about that is, of course, the music video, which is an original music video with Schwarzenegger walking around. It's just not scenes from the movie. And then in, Terminator Salvation, John Connor mentions that, his wife, who wasn't in part 3, but in part 4 she is, finds him the cassette. And he plays it on the road and has the motorcycle Terminators hear it and go to it. And there's a book that takes place in between 3 and 4 that explains how he gets it. So that it's so they kind of wrap it up.
It's
nicely.
transmedia before transmedia.
One last little thing I did want to bring up is, I don't know whether you guys saw it. I don't know if it was 60 Minutes or who it was, but some little news show did a little thing about how there was a woman named Sarah Connor who was getting phone calls and letters and was getting bothered by everybody on the planet constantly because of her name. And she was so angry, and she wanted to sue James Cameron for everything that happened. And it's just, and apparently she wasn't the only one. I mean, Sarah Connor's kind of I don't want to say it's a common name, but it's pretty common. And I just remember it was kind of tickled. And then I'm like, man, I would hate to have been named Sarah Connor after all that.
Do people go up to her door and just knock on it and go, Sarah Connor?
Yes.
She would be like that 80s song, the 8675309. It's like people start calling it.
You know how people are. That's what they do.
Well, I worked at Tower Records a long time ago, and this is before the prequels came out, is I knew a guy who named his baby, his son, Anakin, because of the trilogy, the original trilogy. And then the prequels came out, and it's like, wow, I bet you're happy that you named him after a whiny teenager that bitches and moans and groans about sand all the time.
That's funny.
And the one thing I'll bring up, the last thing I'll bring up is the trailer for Terminator 2. Like the teaser trailer is how smart Cameron is that we all wondered, wait, how can there be more Schwarzenegger Terminators? He was the only one. Well, what was the teaser? The conveyor belt of endless Schwarzeneggers being made. Mm-hmm. And that trailer alone told us how, there were more Schwarzeneggers. And and then the last thing I'll bring up is, because we've talked about the sequels, is of course the stupid lame ass death of John Connor.
Yeah.
In which
Dark
one?
Fate.
In
Dark Fate.
Okay.
Dark Fate.
How stupid are these filmmakers that they get Edward Furlong on the friggin' wagon, send him to a gym, have him drink a lot of water, get him into shape, and bring him back. Well, that's what we've always wanted, was him and Linda Hamilton again. And we finally get it, and he gets killed like in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Well, it'll get recon somewhere along the way, I'm sure.
Yep. The next Terminator series will bring him back.
Guaranteed there will not be another one. I'm willing to put money on it. And I say this, I'm sorry, I'll say this quickly. I'll say my reason why: China.
Yeah.
In China, Genesis made a lot of money because it was more male based. Dark Fate bombed horribly, because it was more female based, and they don't like that. So that's why a lot of these films, like the Disney Star Wars movies, bombed over there, because they have no relation to those movies at all, but they also didn't like having it as a female lead character. And so
just make it a male lead character and then, bring it back.
Because China's the place.
But a lot of places are being banned by China anyway. Like Doctor Strange too is being banned, I believe, by China.
Because we got to bow down to them. That's the problem. Genesis bombed here, but it made a ton of money over there. Dark Fate bombed there and here. So I bet you're not going to see another Terminator for a while, if that at all.
My last is a little quick clap for Robert Patrick. I didn't think I was going to initially like him as a Terminator. I didn't see him as a Terminator, but he did a really, really good job, and he made me a believer by the end of the first time I saw the film. So well done, sir. And he's always a good actor. I can't think of a single bad performance I've ever seen him do in anything.
I do love that he was in the Wayne's World. I think it was Wayne's World 1, where he pops in and he walks up to Wayne and Garth and said, "Have you seen this boy?"
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
they scream.
And they scream and drive off. That was funny, and
I
that
would too. If like that.
I would. I literally, if Robert Patrick showed up at my house and said, "Is Sarah Connor here? Is there Sarah Connor here?"
And let's not forget, he was in X-Files. He was in Sopranos. He was in a lot of good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and the T-1000 was the original Terminator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Cameron wanted, was the slick Porsche Terminator that could blend into any crowd. And then when Schwarzenegger got involved, they rewrote the script for Schwarzenegger so that he became more like a tank. And then Cameron just brought over the T-1000 to part 2.
That's funny because was in the first one, was he called a T-101?
He's the T-100.
T-100?
Yeah.
Okay. So T-1000. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I wonder if there's a T-1 million somewhere out there.
It'll be in Terminator
1001.
It'll be in Terminator 7 or 8 or whatever they're at now. That'll never come.
Well, it's always a T something, like G1 or T.
Well, yeah, it's
G3,
Terminator.
T.
It's T-1001 for Windows.
My last thing is, and seriously, this will be the last thing, but Cyberdyne systems. Somebody actually patented Cyberdyne systems, and then guess what? A few years later, it was terminated. I'm not lying. Like, it was abandoned. So it got somebody. I have a feeling, because it said that they abandoned it. Like, they kept trying to reach them, and they couldn't reach the people. Maybe they're dead. I don't know. Maybe there's too much information out there.
Robert Patrick showed up.
Somebody came through the time machine and whacked them.
Maybe we shouldn't be talking about that. Maybe that's no. But maybe I stumbled onto something I shouldn't have. But oh well. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. This has been an awesome Film Freaks. I love everybody that was here, that we had a great time. And please join us next month. Will be Paul's, and I believe, it'll be our second. Well, it'll be your last one, I think. So of the thing. So thank you guys so much for checking this out, and join us next month for a whole new episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye.